Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jenna Quinn, and it's my pleasure as the Assistant Director of Alumni and Affinity Engagement to welcome you all to this edition of the 49er Industry Chat Series. So just so everyone is aware, the session is being recorded. So really what that means for you is that it's going to be available to you again on demand on our website at www.csulb.edu/alumni. So feel free to watch it again or share it with a friend or a colleague or anyone else you might think would get something good out of this. And so with that, I am so happy to introduce Desiree Wroten. Hi, Desiree.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, awesome. Desiree, I'm just going to read your bio really quick just so folks can get get to know your background just a little bit. Okay,
Okay.
so Desiree Wroten, a product of Riverside Unified School District, serves as the district director for the 39th Congressional District, making significant impacts in her community. She graduated from JW North High School in 2003, and then Wroten attended Cal State Long Beach, majoring in communications, before discovering her passion for government while working in Riverside's downtown district. This passion led her to earn her master's degree in public administration from Cal Baptist University. In 2014, Roten embarked on an internship with Congressman Mark Takano's district office and quickly securing a full-time position in the district and propelling her towards a position in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill just a few years later. With diverse roles, including Director of Operations, she demonstrates unwavering dedication to public service. Now, Roten manages a team of 5 staff members back in Riverside in the district office and assists constituents and coordinates with the congressman's local engagements as his district director. Desiree, I, for one, am very excited for this one today. So let's just get right into the questions.
All right.
Um, and I just, want to start off with a little bit of background. I read a little bit about background about you, but I'm really curious to know about your life and your experiences and what really led you to come to CSULB in the first place.
Yeah, so I actually have an older brother, Derek Wroten, who went to Cal State Long Beach. He attended, I don't remember the years, but I was about 11 or 12 years old, and I have pictures, I should try to find it, of me sitting on his dorm bed and just hanging out in the dorm. And I thought that was so cool. I thought the campus was huge. Of course, the iconic pyramid, went to basketball games. So that's kind of where I first learned my love of Cal State Long Beach. And then coming out of high school, I knew I wanted to go straight to a college that was in California, but not too far from my hometown of Riverside. So Long Beach was perfect. I applied to a few others, but I remember applying and my actual acceptance letter was actually lost in the mail. This was many moons ago. It was lost in ground mail, and my mom actually knew someone in admin who had to search my name. And it was about 2 months prior to the semester starting, and they finally gave me a notice like, oh, yeah, you were accepted. So as soon as I got that, I immediately packed my bags, moved into the dorms like a month later, and the rest is history. And that's how I almost wasn't a 49er because my letter was lost in the mail, but my mom got into action and called people. She asked for the manager.
I love that. I love, clearly you had a strong beach family from the
Yes.
start. So that's
Yeah.
great. And bless the U.S. Postal Service. They do their best. But we're
Right.
so glad that you did come here. Um, and was able to be, here on campus and living in the dorms. But I'd love to hear more about your student experience at CSULB. Were you involved in any clubs or activities? Were there any professors that really stood out to you, or peers that like helped you along your way?
So this is one thing, 'cause like I went straight to Cal State Long Beach right out of high school, and I'm starting to realize the older I get, 18 is really young. So I was pretty shy, I was pretty introverted. I think I was on the listserv of some of the clubs, but I don't know how much I participated. But one thing I did really like, even being shy and introverted, I was so happy that I got into the dorms. The dorms kind of force you into friendships. You make your little cliques. Your roommate hopefully is a great roommate. I had great roommates, and we would go to lunch together. We would go even like study together. I made other friends within the dorms, and so we would all meet up to lunch together. It'd be like 10 of us at a table. So that is one thing I do highly recommend to prospective like high school students. The dorms are where you're going to like, it might sound scary and you're moving away from home, but that's where you're going to make your friends most of the time. So I really enjoyed doing that. And then I also picked up a job at the bookstore. So I worked right there in the bookstore during the holiday rush, the beginning of the year rush, the different big sales. I was right in the front registers, and then eventually moved up. I don't know the setting now, but moved up to customer service upstairs. So that was another thing. That's kind of a little side club in its own. All of those employees all knew each other. And so it was amazing that I was working, living, and going to school all in the same area. So I think I saved a lot of mileage that year, but it
Yeah.
was it was fun. So maybe for any students that are still a little shy and introverted, you'll find your way, you'll find your groups. I do wish I would have joined some of the clubs and activities, but I was just a little nervous. But I was on the listserv. I would get the emails. I would try to stop by, but kind of made me nervous. But I did make a ton of friends living in the dorms and working in the bookstore. Those were great experiences.
Yeah, and what about your classes? I mean, your major was communications, right?
Yeah.
And how did you fare in that? Was that a good program for you? Do you feel as though there are any skills that you still use today?
Yeah, definitely. So that is another part of me being 18 and figuring out what I wanted in life. I knew I wanted to go to college, but I wasn't sure exactly the route. I think I was accepted under a undecided major, and I've changed it a few times. I think HGTV and stuff was big back then, and so I wanted to be an interior designer. And so Cal
Ah,
State Long Beach, I don't if it's still available, they have that major. So which is amazing. So I think I went from that. It was super impacted. I couldn't get into any classes. So I think I changed it to history because I do love history, just being a history buff, American government history. That's probably how I led to government and whatnot. And then I was a Black Studies major at one point because I was just wanted to be a teacher and teach certain subjects. And then after many conversations with my advisor, who was great, I settled on communication studies. And under communication studies, I think it's great because I sort of created my own path using that. When you think about it, everyone needs to participate in some type of communication. So every day. So I took courses in business communication, organizational communication, communication in different genders, cultures, and that was actually it was super helpful. It just helped me learn how to address multiple entities and multiple demographics, which then is kind of how I got into public service because there's always going to be your constituents are all over the board and you need to be able to talk to all of them and address all of them. So I think communication studies ended up being the perfect choice, and I'm glad my advisor suggested that.
yeah, for sure. Well, I, at some point, right, everyone's time at the beach comes to an end, and there's that big question of, you know, what to do next. What's that next step? And so what did that look like from you, the transition from being a student to being in the working world?
So I what was it? It was years ago, and I kind of left the college. I was having a little difficulty finding a job, and that's when I went back to. I tried to, or I contemplated doing my master's at Cal State Long Beach, but I just stayed local in Riverside. That's why I ended up going to California Baptist University. So although my communications studies, it helps me generally in all aspects of life. I went on further to receive a public or a master of public administration. So that's just to say, instead of business administration, an MBA, it's an MPA. So you're dealing with the public and public service. And it was while I was out during my undergrad, I was working small various jobs, but I was right in downtown Riverside. So I knew I started to make a lot of colleagues that were working for the city, working for the county, working for the state. And that's kind of where I was like, oh, I want to do public service too. And I actually, when I applied for grad school, they actually asked me to revamp my, because it's a small private school. So they reached out directly and asked me to revamp my letter of intent, because usually public administration, it might come from folks who majored in political studies or whatnot, or poli-sci. And so I just went in there, and it is true. Like, I'm not exaggerating the communication studies. Like, you do need to learn to work with businesses, with organizations, with different genders, with different cultures. And I just tied all of that to how it's helpful in the public service world. And they said, okay, looks great. Actually, that does make sense. And I got accepted into grad school to then take my communication studies. That's how I was able to apply it to public administration, and then further my education career to get deeper into the job I have now.
Yeah. Which, you know, speaking of which, the job you have now, definitely for a lot of folks, politics and government, it's one of those very interesting fields for a lot of folks. So, or just a very desirable field for a lot of folks. Um, so as far as what it is to actually work in public service, right? Um, what does a typical day look like? What is the reality of I want to work for a congressman, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so honestly, if you're not like into politics, a lot of folks don't know like what's going on. Maybe it's become a bit more popular lately with different folks that have been in charge. It's starting to be all over the news, but before then, a lot of folks don't know like how it works. So basically, each member of Congress is elected by the folks, by their constituents, the people who elected them in the district they're representing. So within the 39th Congressional District of California, we cover the cities of Riverside, Moreno Valley, Paris, and Jurupa Valley. And so there's always going to be, for every member of Congress, even senators, even state level, you have your district office, and then you have for Congress, you have your Washington, D.C. Capitol Hill office. So same on a state level, you're gonna have your district office, and then they have a Sacramento office. So here in the district office, it's a lot of community outreach. It's actually, since I've done both, they're two completely different offices. So the district office is going to be the ones holding the town halls, reaching out to community or to constituents in the community, going to grand openings or more student of the month. Those are always really nice at the high schools and the middle schools. We present them certificates from the congressman if he's not there that week or whatnot. So it's kind of just being a face for your elected official when they're not around, or even when they are around. You want to have, or we'll host social security workshops. And also on the congressional side, we do federal level stuff. So it's VA benefit workshops, social security workshops, even maybe an IRS information fair, FAFSA fair. So all of that with the Department of Education, we're getting all of those resources that are available to constituents and making sure they know about it. That's what a lot of district offices do. DC office really quickly is
No, no,
completely different.
not really
Okay.
quickly. That's actually, that
Okay,
was going to be my
okay.
next question, was like
Okay,
you've
okay.
done both, right? You had that time on Capitol
Yes,
Hill. So what is it,
yes.
what is that like if folks are interested in a life on the Capitol Hill?
Yeah, so oh my gosh, Capitol Hill, it's amazing. So I actually really loved my time there, and it's funny, I did 4 years. So I say I graduated Capitol Hill University, and then I moved back because I did 4 years and came back. Not that there was anything wrong with it. It's just my entire family's in California, but Capitol Hill is fun. It's just, I already said I'm a history nerd. So anytime I would walk by the Capitol, the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, I would take a picture almost every single time, even after living out there for 4 years. But that's the city. The city's amazing. The city's always fun. The job is very, very fast paced. So when you're in DC, the Capitol side, I'm sorry, yeah, in the Capitol on the DC side, it's more of the legislative side. So that's where they're writing the policies. That's where they're doing floor debate. That's where they're going to committee hearings, all of that type of stuff. So it is actually very different, but still working towards the same sort of issue. In the district, where ears and eyes of what's going on in the community so we can then relay it back to DC and maybe come up with different policies or different laws or an amendment to a certain law that's already there because that's what our constituents are asking for. So DC is a lot of the legislative policy law writing side, committee hearings, and then the district office is going to be your community outreach and helping constituents directly, and both
Yeah.
sides are really fun. So,
Well, what is the information transfer like for that, right? Like you said, you're the in the district, you're that eyes, your ears, your boots on the ground of what
yeah.
your constituents care about. How does that, when someone comes in with a concern, how does that get relayed to the policy side of it all?
Yeah, so we have what we call casework, and it is with, or we call it casework, or you're opening up a congressional inquiry. So if someone has an issue, the biggest ones are I haven't received my Social Security benefits, I haven't received my veteran benefits, and even now the public service loan forgiveness, information was revamped just a year or two ago, and we're starting to see a few cases saying, hey, I'm close to my 10 years. If folks aren't aware of that, if you work in public service, not a shameful plug, but I'm not selling anything, it's free. It's if you're a government employee, which includes military, law enforcement, I think teachers, and just any government entity, if you have 10 years of consecutive payments, so 120 payments, your loans will be forgiven. And that's something that's been around for a long time, I think since the '08 administration. So I think it's coming about more in the news because people started hearing just loans getting forgiven, but this one is specific. If you pay for 10 years, you can get your loans forgiven if you work in the public service. So yeah, so we see constituents coming in asking about those type of issues, and we will relay very like important ones, or everybody's important, but things that we can probably make a change to our legislative team. And just on that note too, not our office, but another office that was based out of San Diego, I believe. I was at a conference, and the district director there, said years ago that their office is the one who got the ball rolling on the don't ask, don't tell policy in the military, because it was a constituent, a group of constituents who kept coming to the congressperson's office claiming discrimination and whatnot. And that's actually how the don't ask, don't tell came about, from their office, from listening to the constituents and making a difference and changing some policies.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys have, for folks who are interested in this field, right? Like you have the opportunity to make some really big impact. And hey,
Yeah.
you guys are public servants, public employees too, so that student loan forgiveness probably applies to you, right?
Yeah, yeah, take
Yeah.
advantage of that.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's an incentive to work and give back to the community. If you work in the public for 10 years, your loans will be forgiven if after some more rules and making sure they qualify. But in a nutshell, that's what it is.
For sure. Well, so, you have obviously a lot of ability to, in this type of work, you have a lot of ability to make a lot of impact. But could you speak upon, the impact that it has in your life, both district work and the Capitol Hill work? What's that work-life balance like?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's it does take some, it took some practice to make sure I was actually balancing my work life. I tend to want to just keep working and get things done, but um I think during the pandemic was when I was able to really set boundaries on my work life balance, because everything was kind of blurred. Everybody was working from home, and people were still texting and messaging and emailing at like 7, 8 o'clock at night, and had to make sure I cut that off and stayed focused. But it's a really rewarding job. I love it a lot because I am actually representing my hometown. So, and even if I wasn't, there are a lot of folks, or a lot of staff in our office that aren't from the district, but they still learn to love it. And I think I have the best outcome because I'm born and raised in Riverside, and I'm now the district director for the congressperson who represents this area. So I can say that I'm making a difference for my family, my friends, my hometown, like my under or not undergrad, but K through 12 schools and whatnot. So I think it's really fun. I like it a lot. I try to make the best out of it, and I get some fun perks. I went on a congressional tour of SoFi Stadium, little stuff
Oh.
like that. Yeah, I thought I'm a huge football fan, so I
Oh
thought
yeah,
that was
what's your
amazing.
team?
I am a diehard Green Bay Packers fan.
All right.
Nothing to do with California. It's a long story, but diehard Green Bay Packer fan. So,
All right, but
but
who's your pick for the Super Bowl?
oh man, it's neither of my teams, so I don't know. I maybe the 49ers, nothing against Taylor, but a lot of my family and friends are 49er fans. I'm the oddball out being a Green Bay Packer fan. A lot of my family and friends are either 49ers or like Raiders or Rams. So if anything, I guess I'll go for the 49ers so I can see my family happy.
And go beach, right? We can
Yes,
pretend.
go Beach. Yeah, at least it's a California team.
That's right.
That's
That's
what I'll do. I'll go for the California team.
right. Awesome. So, what is the most challenging part of your job?
The challenging part would probably be honestly those casework requests if some of them don't turn back out favorable. We've run into a few people who just later in life or found out they still owed money to like Department of Education, and those do not go away ever. So make sure you're paying your loans, because we tried our best to try to see what happened and how they didn't know about this and whatever, and they just still had to pay it. So like cases like that, or even bigger ones like with the VA, or people can't get like health appointments because they're so backlogged, and then they get even more sick and stuff like that. Those are kind of challenging because you want to help people. And sometimes the answer is just that it's not available. Like we try our best, but if they're saying like somebody gets audited by the VA or Social Security and now you have to pay back, like unfortunately, sometimes if that whole audit is correct, then you have to pay back. Sorry. So
Yeah,
that's the challenging part when our congressional inquiries aren't the most rewarding.
gotcha. Well, what is the most rewarding for the part of your job?
So obviously the opposite of that. We've gotten looks like not single-handedly, but totaled in the millions now of how much money and benefits the congressman has been able to return to constituents. And also, he's passed a few bills since I've been in the office. that's another part. It's hard to pass a bill because you have two sides who need to agree on one thing, and that's the hardest part. Yeah, so once they actually do agree and a bill actually gets passed, that's actually really, really good for us. So he's passed a few bills more on the veteran benefits and whatnot. One of the latest bills deals with toxic exposure for service members who were around toxics, like in like post 9/11 and whatnot. I'm not a huge military person. Sorry. When I'm the district director, I'm more like operations and oversight, and then we have a full-on veteran team. So excuse me if I'm
Wow.
like butchering the description, but it's a bill was passed for those who have been affected by toxic exposure and Agent Orange type deals. It was expanded, and that was really good and really beneficial for folks. My father was a Air Force veteran. He's passed away, but if he were here, he would have qualified under that bill that was just passed a couple of years or two ago. So those are the rewarding parts, seeing the nice bills and the nice policy and the fun things about politics when they actually work and people come together. That's the rewarding part.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Do you have any you know, cases or projects either here or when you were on Capitol Hill that really just sticks out to you as one of your favorites or maybe something that you're most proud of?
Oh, yeah. So when I first moved back, so I had already been in the district and then DC. When I first moved back from DC, one of the first events I finally did, um, was the renaming of a post office, which, if it's a federal, yeah, post offices are federal buildings, USPS is federal. Um, and when you can rename or you can name federal buildings, and when you do, that actually is like it's a bill that goes on the floor and gets voted on. Those are usually the easier
Ah,
bills that people pass quickly without hours of debate. But so
I
we
would
were
hope.
able to, yeah, we were able to rename the post office after one a well-known constituent in Riverside. Her name is Woody Rucker Hughes, and she was a counselor at Riverside Unified School District. So where I grew up, she was also a teacher at the high school I went to before I was there. She was my mother's ninth grade teacher. And so
Wow.
just, yeah, that was actually, I was so proud. And she unfortunately passed away a year or two when I moved to DC. And I remember she was so excited that I was moving to DC. She was so proud of me. She was kind of like a mentor in what in some stance, because she knew my mom, she knew the community, she was already in that mentoring role because she was a counselor at the school district, and she was the president of the Riverside NAACP branch. So really well known, excuse me, really well known in the community. Everybody loved her, and she just ended up passing away, getting older and sick and whatnot. But we were able to pass that law to rename the Riverside Main Library as the Woody Rucker Hughes Library. And the first thing I did, I moved back December, so I started my new position January. We had that event in February. So during Black History Month, we were able to have a huge ceremony renaming and unveiling a plaque that was going to go on the post office. And that was one of my favorite projects doing, because I know she was so proud of me. So I had to come back to the district and reward her and thank her for everything she did for me. And so now that post office is named after her. And
Wow.
everyone in the district loves it. Everyone's always, they all said I got so many thank yous and praises for helping that get through.
Yeah, for solidifying that legacy. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, and I'm so glad that you brought up mentorship because that's
Yes.
actually part of my next question. How important is mentorship? And I mean, even you can even expand this to networking
Mhm.
in your field. And what's your experience with mentorship and networking been like?
It's very important. Again, kind of with the joining clubs and activities when I was young. I wish I would have had mentors at a younger age that helped me guide through. So if anyone listening is still in their freshman, sophomore year, like get a mentor. Make sure it's always helpful to hear how other people are going through certain situations or getting advice on how to tackle an obstacle, a conflict, or even something you're proud of. It doesn't have to be anything horrible. It could just be someone you want to talk to and tell them how well you're doing and how you can do even better. So mentorship is actually really important. And like you said, tying it to networking, so mentorship, I guess, would be working directly with someone. Networking is always very helpful too. Go to those mixers, go to those business nights, reception nights, or whatever you see, and get some business cards. You can probably buy some cheap ones online. And I had that too as a was it during my undergrad? I think I made my own business cards to just try to get to know people. And it just said like my major and my degree year, and I think my LinkedIn or something. And I would pass out cards to get to know people. And it helps too in advancing your career, because if folks start to see the work you're doing and they see how dedicated you are, and a position becomes available with them or somewhere they know, they might recommend you right away. So those are good reasons to have a mentor, to be a mentor, and to get some networking in there to just boost your career and your personal life. And you can find great friends and colleagues to use as references when you are looking around. So I think it's amazing to make sure you're out there, and if you're shy and introverted, just try your best.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, hey, you're proof positive, right? Like it can be done for an introvert.
Yeah.
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 Do you have any, I love the idea about the business cards, and if you don't already have them, get them. But do you have any other tips or tricks for folks who are either introverted like you, or maybe just feel intimidated about networking or reaching out to find somebody to be a mentor? Do you have any tips or tricks or suggestions for how you might, kind of dip your toe into that?
Yeah, so my thing that I do, probably learning growing up, I have three older brothers, and one of them is close, or we're closest in age. We're only a year apart. He's the extroverted one. And I used to just cling to him and be like meet his friends. And I learned I did that on the career side, the professional side too. I made a couple friends who are very outgoing in DC. So even when I was like an adult and everything, I still moved to DC on my own with zero family out there. And so I had to learn to meet people. And I ended up meeting a friend where we're still like almost best friends now, still really close. She lives in DC still, but she was one of the first ones I met. And she was the extroverted person and loved networking and loved going out and loved meeting people. So I would just like shadow her and trying to figure out like how would she approach this person or whatnot. And so I kind of just shadowed someone who was extroverted. So I guess my tip would be, if you're still too nervous right away, maybe go to these events or go somewhere where you want to network with a friend or two. So it's not too nervous, or it's not too nerve-wracking. And you just casually walk up, introduce yourself. The card is easy too. You can say, oh, here's my card. I'm a major at blah, blah, blah. I'm looking into getting getting into such and such field. And I know everyone dreads the what do you do question, but it is helpful. So get to know what other people do if they're part of the same field you're in, and then just hand them that card. Maybe definitely beef up your your LinkedIn. Because that's starting to get more and more active. A lot of folks like will hire directly through LinkedIn. So make sure your LinkedIn looks great. You have a nice professional headshot, and your experience and everything is on there. And you can make those connections virtually if it's a little too intimidating in person. So LinkedIn, or grab a buddy in person.
Awesome, great advice. I love it. Well,
Thanks.
kind of also in the realm of that digital space, kind of like our buzzword of the day topic that we like to ask about, because we see that it seems to be so pervasive throughout every industry.
Yeah.
So, in yours, how how is AI impacting what you do and your public service role? And do you see AI as a good thing, a bad thing, a neutral thing?
Um, so yeah, definitely AI is everywhere, even in the government and Congress political world. There, of course, on our level, we get notices from IT to make sure it's like a legit company or chat box that you're using. But they are, and we've gotten guidance on just how to detect AI and what services we should use if we want to use them and whatnot. But I do think it's very helpful, but I think it's more coming from an era of not having AI. I think I can, it's you, I think I would say that it's helpful as a way to boost what you already know. Um, as a manager, as a supervisor, I'm easily going to tell if you wrote this or if AI wrote this. But so that's why like you can't just not have any skills at all and then try to turn in a paper. But if you already have an idea of what you want to say and you just need some help, I think AI is actually great. On the professional side, even in the my own personal side, I just went on a vacation and I used AI to generate my itinerary, and I copied exactly what it said. I had never been to Europe before, so I picked the 3 cities I wanted to go to, and AI put them in order and how to get there, like to make the most benefit of the trip. So it was AI's great. It might be I know that should have been a travel agent's job, but it was really helpful and very quick. And it's helpful if you kind of already know what you want to do and you just need a little bit of assistance. I like AI.
Okay, very
As a
cool.
supervisor, as a manager, we're gonna know if this is written by you or someone else. Something else.
Well, I will, if there's ever any legislation, I'm sure there will be coming across the pike. We'll rely on you to keep us in the know.
Yes, of course.
Awesome. Well, I'm always so surprised by how quickly these chats fly by, and I am very, very surprised with this one. So we're coming to the end here, but there's a question that I always like to ask towards the end, which is this: if you were able to get in a time machine or wave a magic wand and be able to go talk to yourself, right when you were graduating or almost about to graduate from CSULB, what would be one piece of advice you'd give yourself?
I would definitely say to stay patient, stay calm. You will find the great job that you're working hard towards and looking for. And also, it's okay to not know exactly what you want to do. I think a lot of folks are kind of nervous that they have an idea of the field they want, but they don't know maybe exactly what they want to be, whether that's I like computer stuff, but I don't know what I want to do, or I like I don't know, arts and history, but I don't know how to use that passion. Just be patient with yourself, and it is a trial and error. Just find different jobs so you can mark off what you did like about it and what you didn't like about it, and just keep narrowing down your goals. I didn't get into my field. It wasn't right out of college or right out of school. I went back to get my master's, and then I had a couple of jobs where I was like, this isn't really what I want to do. And now I know I don't want to do that. I'd rather go do this. And so it took me a while to actually figure out what exactly I want to do with life. I had an idea. I know I wanted to be in government realm, government affairs, but I didn't know exactly what. And I was kind of led to this job, and it's pretty much perfect. I'm representing my hometown. I'm back a mile or two away from where I grew up, and I'm with my family, and it's great. So I would just say patience, and don't be discouraged if you don't know what you want to do yet. Just still stick to it, and you'll eventually find your purpose and your niche.
Awesome. Well, Desiree, thank you so much for your chat today, for your time today, and for all of the great, pieces, all the great stories and pieces of advice. I think that there's a lot to get out of this, especially folks who, are interested in perhaps serving and serving their community. So, thank you so much for your time.
All right.
Um, and so for all of you who have joined us today, thank you so much for tuning in and for being a part of this. Like I said, you can this will be available to you to watch again on our website at www.csulb.edu/alumni. But you can also follow us on social media at CSULB alumni on all the various different platforms and make sure to follow us so that way you don't miss the next one and you can keep up to date with everything that we're doing. But Desiree, if folks wanted to maybe continue the conversation or ask you another question, where might they reach out to you?
Definitely my LinkedIn. So if you want to connect on a professional level or even personal and ask me a few more questions, my name is pretty unique, just Desiree Wroten. So if you look me up, it's most likely me, Desiree Wroten in Southern California. So yeah, definitely follow me on LinkedIn. Send me a message if you need anything, even if you're one of my constituents, if you're in Riverside too and you need help with something, or even if you're not, I can direct you to who can help on the federal level if it's with an agency. And just definitely looking to make more connections on LinkedIn. Reach out to me, Desiree Wroten. You'll see my smiling picture there, and I definitely am active on it, so I will be able to respond.
Awesome. Well, Desiree, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And everyone else, have a great day. Bye-bye.